nice, wasn't it? Oh, Henry, you are nice.
Well, now, they all said as follows, that it was this kind of dilemma. It was a mythical maiden from the north, and it was a day a farmer took off for greasing his hay wain. Dennis Quilly.
Funny one, isn't it? I don't believe in the dilemma day, somehow. It's never been a problem of mine, choosing between the Bugatti and the Rolls, but I don't think it's that. I love the poetic idea of the Wayne Day. That's very attractive. I'd like it to be that, but something tells me there's something kind of vaguely Orcadian, isn't there, Paddy, about that?
Well, don't ask me.
Okay.
You're the champion guessman in the world.
I think it's the Orcadian maiden who wafts the sailors back home.
Well, it was Rita Hunter who said it, true or bluff. She tells you now.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't that. Here comes the true definition. Lo and behold. The day a chap takes off to grease the hay wain. What else could it be? Gruft is the next one, and Hannah Gordon will define it.
Well, graft, surprisingly, is not a disease that sheep get from eating it. Graft is a rustic name for the mud that sticks. No, not this time. It is a rustic name for the mud that sticks to the blades of grass after there's been a heavy rainstorm and flung it up.
It's very agricultural, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So let's see what Patrick says.
A graft is an attack of the shivers of the shudders.
Real.
A kind of icy qualm. Now, oddly enough, in the northeast of England, I come all of kind of goosepimply, you know, but in the northeast of England, it's turned into the equivalent of a nightmare or a nightmarish experience, like if you get your foot perhaps trapped in a rat hole or something, that's a graft.
Or in your Wellingtons.
Oh, your Wellingtons. Both feet in one
Now
way,
it's Dennis Quilly's turn.
If a cannon is aimed at an angle below the horizontal, which it sometimes needs to be, inevitably the cannonball will roll out at the end. And to save the cannoneer the embarrassment of going up and saying, "Please, can we have our ball back?" They came up with the graft, which, in its simplest terms, is simply a wad of cloth, waste cloth, which is rammed in to keep the ball in place until the cannoneer is ready to shoot it off.
So then it's an attack of shivering, that sort of thing. It's mud left on grass after a rainstorm, and it's what keeps the cannonball in the cannon. Rita.
Well...
We're divided.
Are you?
That's juicy.
So it's all on me, is it?
Well, partly.
Thank you. I don't think it's the mud. I mean, I just call mud slush. It's muck, isn't it? I mean, mud is slush and muck. No, and I don't go for the rammer down the cannon either. I go for Paddy. Paddy's shivers.
He did say that, didn't he? Yep. Patrick, true or bluff?
I'm not shivering at all. I'm
We must learn. We can't do without the true definition. Here it comes.
We were all wrong.
I'm sure she makes them up.
Mud on the grass, of course it is.
Bumping up.
She makes them up.
3-2. Nice and close. And we have Balachong. Rita.
Well, a balachong is richly embroidered material, very like, but much more sumptuous than brocade. Genuine balachong comes from a small region in Madras. It's woven with a woof of silk and a warp of gold thread, and it is very much used in the ceremonial dress of the Maharajas. A balachong.
Yep.
Are there any still left?
What, wharfs, whoops, or Maharajas?
Frank, your turn.
Balachong is Javanese musical instrument. like a xylophone, only there's 3 decks of it, and they're little coloured wooden blocks, and 3 chaps play these blocks all together.
All at once.
Balachon. Sort of multi-xylophone.
Lovely.
Job
Now,
is.
Leslie's turn.
Balachon, I speak Chinese, you see, is a savoury condiment, or you might think an unsavoury condiment, that the Chinese sprinkle over a bowl of rice to give it zest and flavour. It's made by pounding up the putrefying corpses of long-dead shrimps and then allowing the resultant mass to dry into powder. Yuck. Balachon.
So it's a sort of Chinese seasoning, sprinkle it over things. It's a rich stuff or material, musical instrument also. Hannah, your turn to choose.
Oh. Well.
Looking at me.
What? Yes, I'm looking at you. You're going to...
It's a 2-to-1 chance,
I
always.
know, but it's the decisions. It's the decisions.
It would just start.
Just
perhaps.
start. I think it's that big xylophone with all these 3 people playing it at once. But I don't think... I've started the wrong way around, haven't I? I don't think it's the shrimp pepper. Sort of... No, I think it's that big xylophone.
You won't have the rich material. You leave that out.
No, yes, I leave that out too.
You
I think it's that
home on
great
the
big
musical
xylophone.
instrument of which Frank
What?
spoke. True or bluff, Frank?
Do you?
Forgotten.
Who gave the true definition of balachon?
Paddy. No, me.
Pepper, was it? Is that what you thought?
That ground up shrimp that makes everything so delicious in Chinese restaurants.
Oh, well.
4-2. Disbury is the next one, and Patrick has a whack.
Disbury is a word that comes from the impenetrable world of newspapers. It kind of all the whole interior world of newspapers is a mystery to the outside, well, lay people, I suppose you would call them. A Didsbury is a little paragraph about that long, about 4 lines, perhaps 38 words, which is kept permanently set up in type, just in case perhaps a columnist it finds he's short of an idea with another 4 lines to go, is shovel in a Disbury. Now, the only interesting thing about the Disbury is that nobody knows why it's called a Disbury.
It could have been a gooseberry.
No, a Disbury.
Dennis Quilly, your turn.
It's a funny one.
It's disbury, of course. It's a simple verb formed in the same way as any other negative verb, like disallow, disagree, disbelieve. So when your dog digs up a bone in the garden, he disburies it.
Audience recognising true merit when it hears it, yes. I ride. Hannah.
A Disbury is an attachment that can be fitted to certain kind of looms, and it's a particular attachment which can fashion a repeating figure round the outside of a carpet, say.
I thought you said loo.
No. Loom.
It's a gadget you fit on a loom, or perhaps they already come with the gadget. It's a standard paragraph to fill up a bit of space if it's left blank otherwise, and it is to dig something up. Frank.
It's a good one, isn't it? We speak with triple forked tongue. We not sure about the loom, and I don't quite understand it. I wouldn't call it a Disbury, but it might do. Hang on, don't go away. Just loiter a bit. To dig up Disbury we keep having those, and they keep being true.
It's like
It's a maddening part. Like N hat. You need to put your hat on. Never forgiven the man for that one. So I think it's that newspaper bit, Paddy, the slug in the newspaper.
You think it's the spare paragraph left over? Well,
Sort
Patrick
of
said it.
think of it. A half.
True
think
or
of
bluff, he'll tell you. Half, you think. Well, you have to go with the whole one.
It's kind of sort of a bluff, really.
Now I wonder which of the other two it is. Could it be dig up? How could it be?
It must have been.
But it is.
Another one. Another one.
We'll have to rehearse that.
What on earth do you do when you disbury something, but you disbury it? The cheek of it. Anyway, petrol we have. The score standing at 4-3, very close. Petrol. Now, you start, Frank.
Petrel is a wee Scottish mark put upon things like porridge spoons. Can I drop the accent?
Do, yes.
Thank you so much.
As quickly as possible.
It's a silver mark put upon silver, which tells the Scots which assay office. There are three in Scotland. Assay. I just put that in as a joke. I didn't mean, it shows, it's the mark which shows, one mark shows you it's Scotland, another mark shows the date, and the Petrel shows you which assay office, or the whole thing's a lie.
One or the other. Right, Leslie Thomas.
A petrel is a small... You got me at it now. Petrel. A petrel is a small bump or blister on the side of or neck of a glass vessel that enables its liquid contents to be measured with exactitude on a sort of medicine bottle. I mean, you could say famous last words, I didn't read the petrel. It's a petrel, a measurement on a glass bottle.
OK, now, Rita.
Well, a petrel is part of a warhorse's suit of armour. And being metal, it is often adorned with lots of jewels and feathers. A petrel.
So it's part of what the horse wears when going into battle or that sort of thing. It's a blister little place on the side of a bottle, and it's a Scots hallmark. And Patrick has to choose one of those.
I don't believe that you would have taken the true one just so you could say, assay. I rather discountenance that. You see, it's all in there.
Yes, cunning old boy.
Oh, feathers on horses would drive horses mad. What was your dribble? I've forgotten his.
He said it was
so
blister on the
interesting.
side
Oh,
of
yes,
the
absurd.
bottle, you know.
You can't. A blob on the bottle. How are you going to measure your petrol, your medicine, in a blob on a bottle? It's feathers on a horse.
Feathers on a horse. Oh, Rita, you said that. Was that true?
Yes, I did. I'm
Or
afraid.
were you teasing?
Well done.
This is really, as I've often said, what makes it worthwhile. With 2 minutes to go, just time for a quick one. Four. Odoom. I'm so excited I can't contain myself. Dennis, very quickly.
Yes, all right, you got it right. Odum.
Odum.
Odum. It's an ancient Hebrew measure for measuring liquids.
That's lovely. Hannah,
It's
please.
Odoom is a small round cake in Tibet. It's fried, it's sweet, and it's fried in yak butter. It's lovely.
Yak butter. Only yak butter. Patrick, your turn.
Doom is a hardwood tree that grows in the Gold Coast of Africa, and it's so hard that little ants break the little white teeth on it.
Oh dear, that nearly got sentimental there. It's a hardwood tree. It's a Tibetan cake, and it's a Hebrew measure. Leslie.
Is it me?
It all hinges on you, Leslie.
I think it's the cake.
You think it's the Tibetan cake
Yes.
of which Hannah spoke. Is she pleased? What can you... Yes, it is! Dennis, we have the real one. And then we can all go home. There. It's a hardwood. It's a hardwood tree. Very, hard on the teeth of ants, apparently. 5-4, and so it seems that... Oh, gosh. Yes, Patrick Campbell's team has won.
Only allowance.
So, we shall be issuing MOT certificates to more bangers from the OED next time. So, until then, goodbye from Dennis Quilly. Leslie Thomas. Anna Gordon. Rita Hunter. Patrick Campbell. Frank Muir.
Good night.
And goodbye. This is Call My Bluff, where, dealing off the bottom of the pack, we have Frank Muir.
My first guest is what an American might well describe as a mighty purty girl. From the new Avengers, Joanna Lumley. If you're asked, you television viewers, who was the most famous Roman of them all, you probably say, I know, Claudius. And here is Claudius, the first time on this programme, or any programme of this nature. How nice to have on Derek Jacobi.
And 8 feet of rippling muscle, Patrick Campbell.
Good evening.
My first guest was Rudolph Valentino's first love. Fortunately, not in reality, otherwise she'd be in a wheelchair. But she was in the movie of that title. She is June Bolton. And my other guests are kind of better than Rudolph Valentino all over. It's only Richard Briers, though.
Let's try and get a word. Lo, where it comes. Balductum, or the scope for pronunciation of all sorts. Frank Muir and his team will define this word 3 different ways. 2 of them are false, 1 is true. The true one is the one that Patrick and co try to pick out. So you're on your own with this one, Frank.
Prithee, my brow is fevered. Prithee indicates its Tudor period, you see. Yes. And the dialogue indicated that I have a feverish chill. What to do? The steward says, mix him a balductum. They take hot milk, into which they drip wine, until it congeals. Pour it down my lord's throat, and thank you, my good and faithful sheriff. And it's a Tudor posset for cooling down little fevers. Or big fevers if you've got enough of it.
Have you finished?
Or tiny fevers if it's just a little chill.
Goes on.
Or you could have...
Yes? More costume drama, please, Frank. No, you won't do it. Derek Jacobi, your turn.
Well, a little before the Tudors, in days of old, when the Gauls were revolting, the Emperor Charlemagne had in his armoury an incredible weapon called a balductum. It was rather like a huge catapult. It was a vast horizontal bow with leather thongs which stretched across it, and on this was loaded the ammunition, huge boulders and stones. The thongs were then pulled back and released, and then this threw the boulders and the stones into the front ranks of the approaching revolting Gauls.
OK, so now, Joanna Lumley.
Yes, dear?
A balductum is a painting of low life, an artistic portrayal of the real beastliness, squalor, an absolute horror of life as it really is. And probably the most famous in the English series of Balductar, I don't have to tell you if that's the plural, is The Rake's Progress by Hogarth.
Fifth declension, I think, Patrick.
I think so.
Yes, I think. Please, Joanna.
So that's what it is. It's a painting of low life.
Oh, yes. Well, it's a painting of low life, she says. It's a sort of bow, which chucks sort of rocks, I think I got, and kind of a medicine or nightcap if you're rather chill.
More of a posset.
More of a posset, Frank.
Yes.
Yes, more of a posset, Patrick.
When you said you were sending for the steward, I thought you were at sea.
Oh, Patrick.
And you wanted a bucket or something. That turned me right off. Whatever you're talking about, I couldn't listen after that. All this... that would be leading a ball out of a catapult, not throwing it. I think whatever you were talking about, these filthy pictures... Is it?
You're going to choose that, are
Yes.
you? The genre paintings of low life. Joanna, you said it too, Bluff. No. She was only teasing. Who gave the true definition? Here it comes. So that's really what it is. It's a sort of a posset, nightcap, or warming drink for those who feel ill. Cob key is the next one, and Patrick will define it for you.
Cob key is a very fine, almost see-through lawn. Not the kind of thing you mow, but a lawn handkerchief made of lawn. Like a see-through lawn. Which duchesses used to blow their noses, of course, in privacy. But was it not Edmund Burke who said, after a chilly reception of an Italian ambassador in London, I received compliments as thin as a cob key.
No, it
What are
wasn't.
you laughing at?
Richard Briers, he speaks.
Yes. Now, cob key, well, usually on board ship in the old days, if a sailor was insubordinate or drunk in charge of a forecastle or something, they'd give him a mild punishment. They wouldn't keel-haul him. They'd give him a milder punishment. This was done with a sort of a piece of wood called a cobbing board, and they'd lay him over the thing, near the deck, the rail, and bash him on the backside with it. And that was called a cob key, or cobbing board.
Right. June Bolton, next.
Cob key. Cob key is the Caribbean equivalent of French bouillabaisse, and that's a rich, fishy stew. However, in the French bouillabaisse, there's one ingredient which one does not normally find, and that is clams which have been separately smoked and very lightly dusted with red pepper. And that's cob key. It's very tasty.
Right. Yeah, very nice. Better than most of the things we get on this programme, I must say.
No drainage, as for one.
Fish stew, then, of that sort. It's whacking a sailor with a bit of wood, and it's lawn of a very fine sort. Frank?
We are in one voice on this. It is fatal, I know, but possibly. Now, hitting a lad with a piece of wood. Oh, Briers.
It's true, I swear.
Great Briers. Now, if you have a thin hanky that you can see through, the ladies would blow through it, wouldn't they? It wouldn't perform its function
Duchesses don't blow that hard.
of retention. It wouldn't retain. It wouldn't retain. And the thing is, the clam stew, possibly. No, we think it's Briers and his block of wood.
Whacking the sailor.
Whacking
He
the
said
sailor,
it, didn't he?
yes.
Yeah. True or bluff, Richard?
What should we whack?
Got it? Somehow it's always true when it's to do with sailors on this programme. Do you remember Abel Wackett? I shall never forget it. Jolly good word, that. Semit is another. Derek, your turn.
A semit is a variety of eel trap, traditionally used on the River Severn. It's composed of a long cylinder made of thin wire and closed at one end, and this is suspended in the water facing upstream, and it's suspended between two buoys, spelt B-U-O-Y-S, and the unsuspecting eel swims into it, finds that it can't reverse and is trapped. It's an eel trap.
What a clever idea.
Yes,
Isn't it?
fascinating.
Yes, I think
Could easily work quite well. Joanna Lumley.
A semit, I blush to tell you, is an article of underclothing. I think even Patrick might have one on at this moment. It's a sort of unisex undervest.
That's Patrick.
And for ladies, it would be made out of fine cotton, and for gentlemen, something a little sturdier, perhaps a sort of hairy Welsh flannel.
Right, Frank, your turn.
Hairless Irish flannel, I would suggest. Semit, you are a simple sapper. Medieval times, mayhap. And you're faced with a castle wall. Now, what do you do about it? What you do is you advance, you see, under cover, and you knock a little hole in the wall, and you bung in some gunpowder. You've got plenty of time, it's probably the 100 Years' War, you see. You bung in some gunpowder, and you plug it up, and you shove a fuse in, and you light the fuse, and you retire smartly in a soldier-like fashion, and boom. It's a kind of petard. It's a semit. It says.
OK, so it's a vest, it's an eel trap, and it's a whole sapper's dig and filled with explosive for their purposes.
Yes.
So Richard Briers gets to choose now.
Yes. Well, yes. I don't think it's... Yes, I thought... Yes, I don't like this vest business. And, or that detonator, medieval detonator or whatever it is, charge. Well, Derek Jacobi is my favourite actor, so I'll go for the eel trap.
Eel trap is what Derek Jacobi said, yes. Now. Here it comes. Here it comes.
That's another
I'm not going to let me
I
down.
really thought I'd got you that time.
You let me down.
Nothing to do with eel traps. That was all teasing. You get the true definition now.
No.
There it is.
What's that? I'm sorry, I'm going to look at it. Not doing it all well.
Sort of vest that people wear on and off. Bracker is the next one. Richard Briers to define it.
Now, in the 18th century, you're not going to believe this, it's absolutely true. The 18th century, when they imported goods from this country, from the Baltic states to this country, quite often the goods were a bit off, you see. So we got a bit fed up with that after a bit, so we employed brackers, that is, yes, brackers as inspectors, kind of food traffic wardens, and they checked it all there. I don't know what happened to them, but they obviously weren't very successful because they were dissolved shortly in the latter half of the 18th century. Brackers were inspectors, actually, inspected the grub. I can't say it better than that.
You can't now, June, it's your turn.
Bracker. The word bracker one would find in the workshop of a blacksmith. It's an iron or a wooden frame, and it looks a bit like an upended three-legged stool in which one would put the foot of a horse, a very fiery horse, in order that it may be shod with safety.
Which foot?
Any foot.
I see, just a
Which foot? What a silly question.
The fifth foot.
Yes.
The fifth foot.
Yes.
Well, I think they probably put three in at once and not the one that they were actually doing. But it's no part of more than my position's worth. Whose turn is it next? Goodness me. Patrick.
A bracker is named after T.M. Brack, M.A., a senior wrangler at Cambridge in the early 1880s.
Good.
T.M. Brack, M.A., invented a kind of mathematical joke, apparently flawless logic, by which he could prove that 2 and 2 does not equal 4 or even 5, but 6.
He's
And
teaching now in our school.
Even worse news, please, if you allow me to speak. He could prove that 0 was 1. That's what the bracker was called.
He's still teaching.
Made you laugh, did it? That sort of thing.
I roll on the floor.
I noticed you held back from telling us one. No, don't spoil us, Patrick. It's a mathematical joke. It's a frame which a smith put to use with horses and their hooves and that. And it's an inspector of goods to make sure that they were all right. Derek Jacobi.
Well, I've played Shakespeare with Dickie, you see, and I know that look. No, and I didn't go for the off fish.
It's up to you, then.
The inspector. No, the blacksmith stool thing. I thought they shod horses by putting the horse's hoof between their legs and doing it.
That's
no?
the old-fashioned way.
That's the old-fashioned way. But I do like the sound of the gentleman who can make 2 and 2 make 6, so I will say it was good.
That one, Patrick. Now tell us, true or bluff? No such joke. No such joke. Who gave the true definition? Here it is. It's a sort of inspector who had a look at the goods before they were shipped. Did a very good job, no doubt. Theridion is the next one. Joanna Lumley.
Theridion is an ornamental trellis, and it's held upright by sculpted stone buttresses at the bottom so that it doesn't wobble or fall over or have to be nailed into the turf. There was a very beautiful one in St James's Park in the 18th century. And it's the sort of place where you might have found somebody like Joseph Addison writing his contributions to the Spectator. He wrote contributions to the Spectator. He might have been sitting there.
Sorry, what was it?
It's a trellis, Dick.
Trellis. Got to do them somewhere. Frank, your turn.
A Theridion is an inhabitant, or was an inhabitant, of the Greek island of Theridios. Beyond that, information is a bit scarce. It was in a couple of centuries BC, and they were musical and were believed that they ate lupins. Not to the exclusion of everything else, but they did eat lupins.
Okay.
Next, please, quickly.
Derek Jacobi.
The Theridion is a non-conformist variety of Corsican spider. Whereas your average spider spins a web of almost perfect symmetry, the Theridion's web is very noticeably lopsided. Now, nobody knows quite why this is.
Including you.
No, well, it may be that the Theridion doesn't understand geometry, or maybe much more likely, in the balmy heat of a hot Mediterranean climate, it just couldn't care less.
So it's a member of a sect from that part of the world Frank spoke of. It's a Corsican spider, and it's an ornamental trellis. June Bolton is choosing.
A very difficult choice, I must say.
Stands out.
I don't quite believe Joanna's definition of the trellis. And now we come to Frank.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure about the inhabitant either, because the word does not look anything like it. But I think I'll go for Derek's definition.
The Corsican spider.
That's right.
Of which he spoke. He now tells you whether it's true or bluff.
You're looking a little bit happy there,
Don't think Patrick thought you got it right there, but you had. Lovely bullseye. It is that spider. 3-2, and we have Dacre and June. It's your turn again.
Dacre. It's a very old word. It's the measure of quantity of animal hides which are about to be made into gloves. And 1 dacre is the equivalent to, I should say, a bundle of 10 of such hides. And around about 1753, the selling price of dacres in Edinburgh, would you believe it or not, was about 8 pence each.
Round about 1753. That's as good a date as any. Patrick, speak on.
Dacre is a kind of West Country word, really. Not in current use too much. Because if you say, I'm going to dip your day, because I can't do a kind of West Country accent at all, really.
Have a try. Everyone else does. Come on.
Do a little bit of Dublin if you want it, sir.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
If you're going to dip your daycare, you're an Irishman in the West Country. I mean, I'm going to give you a belt over the gob.
That's Irish.
Or on the other hand, if you wish to say, tip us your daycare, that means shake hands. It does need an Irishman in the West Country, certainly, to make this sound convincing.
So it's something to do with the hands, yes, yes. So, now, Richard Briers.
Well, now, a Dhaka, the correct pronunciation, is, in fact, in eastern Malaysia in the old days, was actually a robber who was usually violent and carried sometimes a horsehair noose, which he often hung his victims. Get a laugh out of that. That's a Dhaka.
We've had them rolling in the eyes with diseases of sheep. Don't worry. Well, anyway, it's sort of a fist. It's a sort of foot pad, and it's a measure of hides, Joanna.
I'm a bit suspicious, June, of the exact dating of the 8-penny packet of daters, the animal bundles. I'm also a bit suspicious.
I don't know why. Why?
Of the Malayan robber, who just for fun brought his own string with him. I wouldn't have thought he'd have bothered to murder them as well. I mean, the same. It's difficult to understand.
Admittedly.
But I think it's Patrick's hand.
You think it was the Dubliner taking a holiday in Shropshire, was it? No, West Country. True or bluff?
So do I. No, it's dreadful.
I blinded you with science there, all right. Who gave the true definition of Dacre? Quick, quick! You have it. Yes.
Oh, no.
Lo and behold.
Beautifully done.
Very old-fashioned measure of hides. 3 all. A very close game indeed. Glomeral. And Frank Muir defines glomeral.
Isn't she in King Lear? No, she can't be, because it's actually a kind of glutinous jelly found in fish flesh, notably fish of the salmon family. When warmed, this transparent jelly becomes opaque, i.e. visible. You can't see it, you see, until you warm it up. And it's a bit like that sort of greasy wax you see hanging around the scales of salmon. Glomeril.
Derek, your turn.
It's actually pronounced glomeral. It's a very onomatopoeic word because it is, in fact, exactly what it sounds like, glomeral. It's a very beautiful word. It's a folksy, poetic name for twilight, particularly evening twilight after sunset. It occurs in a very reasonably unknown poem by a Jacobean poet called Richard Coverdale. Soon now doth glomeral spread her frowning shade, wherein the yearning mavis sounds her lay.
It was a mother-in-law.
It's a very beautiful word for twilight.
Can he speak lovely?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Reasonably unknown, I think, is the phrase for that. Joanna.
Once upon a time, the undergraduates of Cambridge University were divided into 2 categories, scholars and glomerals. Now, the only difference, or the main difference between them, is that scholars came from public schools and glomerals came from grammar schools. Scholars and glomerals.
Really?
So, it's a kind of Cambridge undergraduate, grammar school undergraduate at Cambridge, fish jelly and twilight. Patrick.
You could search 1,000 salmon for a touch of greasy wax. I promise you.
May I correct you on that?
Folksy poetic kind of turns the stomach. But there are tinies. It's a... It's a fishy wax.
The fishy wax, which you seem so scornful to begin with, that Frank, you spoke of it.
That's
Now he
bluff,
tells you, true or bluff.
Well done, Frank. Yes.
You were quite right, Patrick. I mean, that it wasn't there. You shouldn't have chosen it because who's got the true one? Here it comes.
Yes.
I have.
Ah, you have. It's a poor undergraduate at Cambridge coming from a grammar school. So we have S12E13 next, and Patrick.
The S12E13 was the curved shield that went around the front of a Roman chariot in order to prevent the charioteer getting run over by Ben-Hur or pierced by a barbarian spear. S12E13.
Okay. Who comes next? Yes, Richard Briers.
S12E13, yes, well, it's something rather nasty, in a way, rather nasty. It's a disciplinary tribunal comprising of the Knights of the Most Honourable Order of St. John of Jerusalem. If you've got on the wrong side of them, it could be very nasty.
That's you don't care to adorn it, no, why should you? Straight from the shoulder. June, your turn.
S12E13. S12E13 is very tasty, actually. It's a fishy dish.
Another
fishy dish. It's very easily digested. It contains of one small cod, which has been freshly caught and very gently steamed, and it's really delicious.
Okay, well, it's a single deliciously steamed cod. It's a shield in front of a chariot, and it's a tribunal of the Knights of St. John. Frank?
Don't ask me. Our majority vote, this one. Fish. Disciplinary committee, S12E13. It sounds like it, doesn't it? There's another word, isn't there? Like
Escrow.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Not that that's either helps or hinders,
we think we're being rused into thinking that it's that because it's so like Esquire. Chariot shield, noted bluff, but is it true this time? No, we think it's the fish. We think it's the fish.
You think it was the steamed cod of which June Bolton
because
spoke?
It says cod in the
bluff?
word.
Here she comes. She tells you now. My goodness, we can have another one if we're very, very quick. So the next one is congee. And Derek, very quickly.
Congee is the water that rice has been boiled in. You can use it as starch or as a medicine.
Lovely. Joanna?
A congee is a Malayan engagement party where the bride and groom of an arranged marriage meet for the first time.
Great. Frank?
Eastern ladies' cosmetic.
Just what one might have supposed. It's an Eastern ladies' cosmetic. It's a Malayan engagement party, and it's water in which rice has been boiled. Yes, Richard, you have to make a choice.
Oh, dear. Yes, have a little chat. You have a chat, and I'll just stay here embarrassed. I rather fancy the congee. I'm not going to choose it. But congee is sort of Chinese, isn't it, with the rice and all that? Congee? They'll have a congee. Sure.
Yeah,
You like that?
You carry on your own.
You're the governor.
No, you're in charge, yeah.
I'll have a go at the rice, sir.
You'll have the rice, will you? The rice water already. That was Derek Jacobi. Were you telling the truth? But in a way that makes it worse because you've only lost by one. I mean, losing by two is kind of distinctness about that. Anyway, 5-4. It's quite clear that Frank's team has won. So we propose to recondition a few more words from the Oxford English Dictionary next week if we are spared. Until then, goodbye from Derek Jacobi, Richard Briers, Joanna Lumley, June Bolton, Frank Muir, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye. evening again. Call my bluff, where the highest point for miles around is Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. And my first guest, despite her name, well, she's born in South America. She's lovely June Bolton. And my other lovely guest, despite his name, was born within 100 yards of Wimbledon railway station, or underground station, Richard Briers.
And peeping over the top of his bow tie, Frank Muir.
My team, as you may remember from last week, I have two actors. On my right, actress Joanna Lumley. And the rest of the winning team is actor Derek Jacobi.
Let's put all those fine words to the test by ringing our little bell and getting colinderies. That's our first word. Oh, Patrick and Co. define colinderies 3 different ways. 2 of the definitions are false. 1 is true. That's the one that Frank and Co. tried to pick out. So what about this word, Patrick?
Well, colinderies was a kind of pet name or a kind of nonsense word invented in Fleet Street. And not for the first time either, as we denizens of Street of Shame well know. But colinderies really was, if you recall the Colonial and Indian Exhibition,
vaguely,
1887, the colinderies, an adroit kind of joining together of colonial and Indian. If you add on E-R-I-E-S at the end of it, like in Mag Fisheries, you've got colinderies.
I bet that took a whole afternoon in Fleet Street to think out, didn't it?
Slogging.
Seemed to be about that long. Richard, your turn.
A colindery, in fact, was an old-time court that investigated things to do with shipwreck and strandings of vessels. And I don't believe they were altogether successful, actually, because they were dissolved in 1447. There you are, you see, learn something new every day.
Scottish,
yes.
Scottish, yes.
I'm making notes, you see. Scottish court.
Right, you've got them down, Frank? Good.
Dissolved
June, your turn now.
April the 4th.
Colinderies. Well, originally it was colinderie, which was a French word, so it's the word without an S, and it was anglicised by the English. But in both languages, the word is small items of personal and sentimental value, such as rings and locks of hair and lockets and lucky 3-penny bits, etc. Colinderies.
Well, I'm glad it was anglicised by the English because it wouldn't have worked any other way. It's little, small, nice trinkets and things. It's a kind of a court, not very good court, not successful. And the Colonial and Indian Exhibition, a kind of little short word for it. Frank?
I didn't really hear the others. I was working out Paddy's. Colonial Indian. Then we get England, Romania, Ireland, England again, and Scotland. D-E-R-I-E-S.
Which game are you playing?
It's fascinating, Frank.
I've forgotten. It is, isn't it?
It is.
Well, the Scottish courts dissolved in the 15th century. Small items, colinderies. I think it's Paddy's rubbish.
The stuff about the colonial and Indian... Hudda-dudda. Yes, well, Patrick certainly said it. True or bluff?
Well, clever little...
Just so unbelievable, I suppose it had to be true. It says 0-0, but shortly it'll say 1-0, I should think. Wake up, lads, behind there. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Wake up in the back.
Scutcheneal. Oh, you've done it. Good. Scutcheneal is the way I pronounce it, but what do you say, Frank?
I've never said it before, actually. But I actually think Scutcheneal. Scutcheneal is one of those vague serpents that early writers wrote about without actually identifying them. So nowadays one doesn't know quite what they are. But Scutchenell was really quite fancied, and Andrew Gilpin, the 17th century, I'm losing confidence in this. Do you want the rest of it? He thought that the amazing coat of the Scutchenell was so that people were so transfixed at looking at it that she could then sting them.
Oh.
What did you say?
I couldn't make it more particular.
Next,
please, yes.
Right,
Silence. Silence so palpable you can feel it. Derek.
Well, a scutcheoneel is the ornamental surround that goes around a keyhole or a doorknob. It's a fancy doorknob plate or keyhole plate, particularly a door plate that incorporates within its design some heraldic motif or design or symbol, something related to a coat of arms. It's only found in very posh houses.
OK, so now Joanna tells you what she says.
Scutcheoneel is a verb. I scutcheoneel, thou scutcheoneelest. He scutcheoneels, oh would that she had not scutcheoneeled. It's the action of scutcheoneeling is to do with cooking. A cook scutcheoneels, and it means to colour a sauce or a junket or a custard with cochineal.
Oh, Lord.
It's a sort of finger plate, that little round bit at the back of a doorknob. It's to colour a junket, and it's a sort of serpent, Patrick.
Once we begin with a sort of vague serpent.
Yes.
You know, the thing is a vague serpent.
It made me look a fool.
Well, a kind of partially full agreement here. We believe it if we've got a keyhole. We believe it to be Derek's keyhole covering.
You do think it is that? He did say it's something like that, finger plate, that kind of thing. True or bluff?
You're looking far too happy.
Doesn't look displeased, does he?
Happy actor.
Ah! Nothing to do with anything he said. Something else entirely. Now it comes.
No, it's an Get off.
It's the colour stuff. Junket,
That's
custard,
silly.
anything you like with cochineal. Poma is the next word. Richard Briers to define.
Yes, poma. Poma is it's actually the larvae of an American fruit moth. Large moth. It's quite a large moth, so it's got quite a lot of larvae. And the Cherokee Indians, this thing secretes this thing behind the barks of trees, you see. And the Indian, they shoot people, no fools. They find this stuff, dig it out, and they boil it in its own liquid.
Whoa.
Yes. And it looks a bit like rice pudding, and it tastes absolutely foul.
Is it for eating?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Eating purposes, yes, I believe so. June Bolton.
I think it's Poma. And what a Poma is, it's a ritual dance danced in the Caribbean on a very beautiful island called Guadeloupe. And what's unusual about the dance floor is that it's divided into go and no-go areas by patterns of seashells. And if you've ever danced barefoot on seashells, you would know why there are no-go areas.
Probably get them from the Seychelles Island.
I shall hurry on, Frank. To Patrick, please.
The poma is the non-moving part of a monkey's brain. It's the membrane that comes between the two of the lobes, of the rear lobes of a monkey's brain. It doesn't quiver about. It's known to monkey brain surgeons as the occipital operculum. The non-moving part of a monkey's brain is called a poma. Thank you.
But you mean the rest of it's moving all the time?
Yes. Like mad.
Yes, well, doing all that thinking and everything. Well, is that part of a monkey's brain? Kind of a dance, and it's larvae out of which a peculiar Indian dish is prepared. Derek, your turn.
Oh dear. The dance sounds very attractive. No, I don't think it's Richard. I don't think it's Richard. And you did it so well, Patrick.
Well,
don't you think so?
fairly well, I thought.
No, I think... yes, I think it's Patrick.
You do, because he said it was the
that
non-moving part of the monkey's brain. Well, OK, it could be. True or bluff?
The non-moving part of monkey's brains are not confined to your team.
You threw it away.
Don't give up yet. The game is young. 3-0, however. But here comes another one. Securgen, I suppose. Derek Jacobi.
Well, Securgen is the name given to a very old and very inferior variety of wheat, which was long ago supplanted by other heavier cropping varieties of wheat, such as Hobbit, Freedom, Champlain. It was always very hardy.
You go on.
I do, don't I? I didn't know any things like that.
No.
It was always very hardy, but it was bound to be superseded because even when it grew in the hottest and sunniest of summers, it grew very lean, very wrinkled, and very scrawny. It's old wheat.
A load of rubbish.
Scrawny old wheat.
Anybody we know.
Thought you were going to call for slides next. Joanna.
A Securgen can be seen through a telescope at the front of a comet, rather like headlights stretching out in front of a car in the dark. It's a sort of fan-shaped emanation which goes in front of the comet. In fact, if we were all to hang around till, I think it's 1986, when Halley's Comet's coming back again, we could all observe a Securgen.
Big evening. We must get together for it. Now Frank Muir tells us.
I have earache, and I'm 180 years old. In other words,
That's true.
I didn't say I look 180 years old. In other words, it's pre-national health. So what do you do with an earache? You use a Securgen, which is it's a bit of lint, a bit of cotton wool, dipped in a mixture of laudanum, camphor oil, warmed slightly, shoved in the lug hole, and retained, if necessary, with a bandage.
Now, that's what it is.
Simple.
It's a kind of ear plug, a medicament for the ear. Part of a comet, fan-shaped, evidently, and not very good wheat. Richard Briers.
Oh, must I?
I'm afraid.
Oh, dear. Well, old wheat, the back end of a comet, and a medicated swab, I suppose.
In a sense.
Yes, well, I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Securgen. I think I'd have a bash at the old wheat.
The wheat. Now, it was Derek Jacobi who spoke of the wheat. True or bluff was that?
Stunning.
A winner.
It is. You two have acted together. Was that what put you on the...
Yes, we have these
signals. But you don't know quite know how. Yeah. Well, there you are. 3-1, broken your duck. Eupyrion is the next word. June, your turn.
Eupyrion is this pre-safety match fire-making device which was invented round about 1820. And what they had was a bottle filled with asbestos and sulfuric acid. And you took a piece of wood with on one end a bit of sulfur, and you put it in the bottle, and what you really got was a puff of flame. And if you weren't careful enough, you'd burn your eyebrows as well.
Yep. So it's that, and then Patrick tells us something now.
Eupyrion is one of the 12 houses. Do you know anything about astrology?
Nothing at all.
Well, just listen to me for a while, then you'll learn something. It's one of the 12 houses in which the astrologer divides the night sky. It's a good sign. It means the house of the good angel. If you're stuck into the Eupyrion bit, you're going to get some good news about a dark stranger. A couple of blondes thrown in. And some money as well. It's a good sign. in the night sky.
Next.
Richard, your turn.
Yes, Upyrean is an ill wind that blows across the northeast of Levant. It's sort of dry, rather nasty wind, and it's quoted in the Old Testament. May I quote? It's rather nice.
Do.
It's not long, doesn't take long. I never hang about. And I quote, it says in the Bible, it says, "And he shall be as an hiding place from the wind that is called Upyrean." Isaiah 18, verse 21.
So it's an astrological division. It's a kind of a wind, and it's an early form of match. Joanna Lumley to choose.
Yes.
Well, Patrick, I'm quite keen on astrology, as you were talking about Halley's comets, things like this. I mean, I just know these sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember hearing of the House of the Good Angel. That sounds like the Chinese year of the yin dog or something. I don't know. Wrong. I don't believe that. I don't believe that Isaiah talked about a wind called Upyrean.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't remember it.
Very difficult to please.
I don't remember it. But I believe June with her asbestos wadding and burning her eyebrows off.
You think that was right? She said it
Yes.
was a kind of a match. June, true or bluff?
Oh dear, I've made a mistake here. Oh dear.
No, you haven't.
Come back from the dead now.
Early form of match, that's what it was. Fitcher is our next word, and Joanna Lumley.
A fitcher is Port of London slang for a supernumerary customs officer. In fact, somebody they drag in when it's a bit crowded at the docks and they need somebody else to help. It's not a popular word because it comes from not a very popular verb. It comes from fitcher comes from the verb to fitch, which means to purloin or take in Cockney, or to knock off.
Filch.
Right. So, Frank Muir now.
A fitcher is to animals what a police pound is to motor cars. In other words, it's an enclosure in which animals which are loose or badly parked were rounded up by the authorities and held within an enclosure until the owners claimed them.
Pardon?
What about badly parked animals?
Oh, that's
Well, so after Frank, Jacobi, speak.
A fitcher was a verb occasionally used by a frustrated Cornish tin miner. It meant to be, when digging, to be balked or blocked by a lump of granite or stone. And when a frustrated Cornish tin miner was so impeded, he could often be heard to utter the words, "Well, I'm fitchered."
That's
with a better accent than that.
That certainly rings true. Yeah. That an impediment to digging. It's a pound for animals, and it's a supernumerary customs officer. Jude, you pick.
Well, Derek was so happy that I don't believe that's the true meaning at all.
We get a part in Poldark, that's what it was.
You're hoping for it.
As for Joanna, the slang, no, I don't believe that either. But I'll go for Frank's definition. That's the true one.
He said it was a pound, didn't he? Yeah, for animals, too. Bluff.
It will down again.
It's not a pound, it's not a 10p.
No, it's a bluff.
I thought you're turning on me now.
No, it's not that. Let us have the true definition. Please tell us. Bit of stone stuck in the ground stops you digging. Then, now, 5-1, my goodness. Rudget is the next one. Patrick.
It's an awful bit of a building, is a rudget. A boring bit of a building. I mean, windows aren't too bad, kind of up and down windows, you can see through them. But what about dormer windows? And to bash your head in the roof and all that kind of thing. You see how? You've got to cover the top of the dormer window, don't you? You want to rudget. But not just one, but two. And not rectangular rudgets, but triangular rudgets in order to cover a dormer window.
Anyway, well, Richard, your turn.
A rudget is, in fact, a shrimping net, but of a certain type. Usually, used to use them quite a lot in Cardigan Bay. And they're not...
fishing for cardigans.
And it isn't, it isn't a round, it's an oval one. It is so designed that you can use it fishing in a sort of scything movement through the water. So if you see anybody catching shrimps in a shrimping net in Cardigan Bay and they're going, that, they're actually rudging with a rudget. Get off on that, yes.
So, I think it's June Bolton's turn. It is,
Rudget. Those who know about horses would know what a rudget means. A rudget, in fact, is a leather strap that rests on the animal's spine. And the front end of the rudget is fastened to its collar, and the rear end is fastened to the loop that goes around the tail.
Yeah, OK, there's not much more to say about that, if it's true. It's a part of a horse's harness. Shrimping net, much in use in Cardigan Bay, and a species of extremely complicated rooving for very sincere people, I think. We'll go to a lot of trouble. Frank, your turn.
Not very horsey myself. If it had been a strap going across a cat or an Afghan hound, I would have known.
We all know that.
Briers.
Worrying you now.
Briers, you can't scythe with a shrimping net. Have you ever tried to push a shrimping net? A child's one, it takes all your energy. You couldn't possibly scythe.
No, you need the rhythm. You've got the rhythm, you're all right.
We think it's Paddy's dormer windows. I couldn't couldn't understand it.
No, it was pretty complicated. Very complicated. Now we'll know whether he was just pulling our legs. And he was.
Good. Well done. You can see that.
Now we have the two definition of rudget.
Yes.
What was it but there, you see?
Most reliable member of our team.
Part of a horse's harness is a rudget. And our next word is skig. Frank.
Now, normally, if one takes snuff, one sticks great quantities up the snitch, if I might use
you're doing it.
technical expression, you see. But if you just go, that is a skig.
We've had this before.
No. A skig is a soupçon. It's just a little of anything. It could be... James Bridie mentioned that he stifled the skig of a sneeze. A tiny little morsel of anything.
I get it.
No, nobody does that.
You
anyway.
didn't use the handkerchief, Frank, that time. Still, a skig
I've
being
lost it.
You've lost it. Oh, I didn't mean to draw attention to that. Look, Derek, you better get on very quickly. Yes.
Well, a skig is a small, low stool, usually with 3 legs, and at milking time in the Isle of Wight, its function is to bear the buttocks of a very dainty milkmaid. It is a local name in the Isle of Wight for a very ordinary milking stool. Filthy.
So now, Joanna, it's your turn.
Skig, an adjective, means squeamish or over-easily nauseated. A certain rather precious celebrity, this is a story, sorry Briers, I've got to tell it, a rather precious celebrity was once described as turning his head away, sick with disgust every time he saw an egg being boiled. And I think he could have been described as skig.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. Well, it's a milking stool in the Isle of Wight, which makes a change from Norfolk. It's a trace or a little hint or that kind of thing. And it means squeamish. And Patrick's choice.
That is you.
There are no large buttocked dairymaids left in the Isle of Wight. They're all working in Birmingham. So that's out. For the squeamish nonsense, it's a little thing like a pinch of snuff. It has been, after all that agonising act, I must admit.
You think you're due a reward for all that? I know.
Suffering a lot.
I know what you mean, Patrick. Now, so Frank, you said it, true or bluff?
It's a bluff.
No, he was just doing that acting for free. There was nothing at the end of it. Who gave the true definition of skig?
Yes, yes.
Yes, indeed.
Very clever.
An awful smile of her.
Does indeed. Skig means squeamish. Now we have axical. That's quite a nice word, and Richard Briers defines it.
Axical, quite simply, and rather surprisingly, it's interesting to learn these things. If you go up to your, if you have a top room, and you have leaks, water coming through, you are a little light on the axicals. And you... I don't know how I do it. No, but this is true. So you have to go out and get... Because an axical, in fact, is a roof tile. That's what you need, 3 or 4 axicals.
Right, enough. Special sort of roof tile. Now, June, your turn.
Axical is a long garment. It's made of very heavy linen, and it's worn by novice priests of the Greek Orthodox Church. It's as simple as that. That's axical.
As simple as that, eh? Well, well, Patrick's turn now. He tells us.
You know where a kangaroo carries a little baby around in? You know about that? The little pouch thing. An axical this occurs in a mummy iceberg. Because an axical
jumps in and out.
Wait, who's doing this? You and me as usual. You get a huge iceberg with a little kind of pimple off the side of it underwater. This is called an axical. A little baby iceberg.
An axical about to happen.
Well, it's a cassock. It's a special sort of roof tile, I think, and a special sort of iceberg, a kind of baby iceberg that somehow attached to a larger iceberg. Derek Jacobi, to choose.
Well, I don't think it's a roof tile. No, I'm rather short on the axicals with all that. No. And I don't think it's a Greek Orthodox garment. I think it's a baby iceberg.
Small iceberg, you think? Well, Patrick was rather convincing. True or bluff, Patrick?
A little bit of a muddle here, I'm sorry.
Came out all right. It's not a little tiny weeny baby thingy, icicle. Now we have to learn, we really have to learn who gave the true definition.
We don't know who it is by this time. You'll stop.
Oh, well done.
An axicle is exactly what
Talk about non-moving monkeys' minds.
It is one of those slates on a special sort of slate. So, score standing at 3-6, you know, quite a distinct win on this occasion to Frank Muir and Co.
I brought to the workshop, you're ahead.
Hysterical with relief, it's all over on the other side. Anyway, we'll recycle a few more oldies next week. Until then, goodbye from Richard Briers.
Forever.
Derek Jacobi. June Bolton. Joanna Lumley. Patrick Campbell. Frank Muir. And goodbye. Hello, it's Call My Bluff, starring the rector of St Andrews University, though of course we call him College Harry. It's Frank Muir.
Good evening. Both my guests are new to the programme, which is nice. And my first is an actress whom, as you would guess from her name, comes from Germany. It's Suzanne Roquette. The second comes from Scotland. He's a journalist in print and on the screen from Pebble Mill at 1, Donny MacLeod.
And the original racing pigeon, Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. So all my guests are always so well known and so beautiful they need no word from me. The first one is beautiful little Angharad Rees. And the other one is long, lovely, tall Christopher Cazenove.
Now, time-honoured method of obtaining a word. Ring this old bell. And you get 2 for the price of 1 there.
Oh, no.
Highty-tighty is the way I propose to pronounce it. And Frank Muir and his team will define highty-tighty 3 different ways. 2 of them are false. 1's true. That's the one, of course, the opposition try and guess, or rather deduce. So, highty-tighty, Frank.
I'll keep to your pronunciation, Robert. Highty-tighty is a Victorian nursery game to amuse a small child. A grown-up, like you and me, or me, would hide in a cupboard. It's kind of peekaboo games. You hide in a cupboard, and when the moppet walks unsuspectingly past, you spring out going, "Highty-tighty!" thus planting in the child the seeds of nervous disorder in later life.
Why? No, but that's a separate... No, again. Next, please.
Well, it would upset them, you see. That was the point. Donny MacLeod, your turn.
Well, picture the scene. Out on the lone prairie, a cowboy at the end of his long day of riding on herd on dogies starts to think about the girl he left behind him, or even, perhaps, such being the scarcity of women in the Wild West, he would begin to think of the poster he saw in Judge Roy Bean's saloon, of Lily Langtry, and the shape that would spring into his mind would be a shape like that. And the reason Lily Langtry and many ladies of her time were that shape was because of this, a highty-tighty. Now, highty-tighty later became known as a cincher, and it was a type of broad belt worn around the waist to give the ladies that very desirable hourglass figure. Highty-tighty.
Good Lord, of course it is.
So, now, Suzanne Roquette.
There's a difference between highty-tighty and hoity-toity. Hoity-toity is a sort of sniffy haughtiness, and highty-tighty means sort of aloof, withdrawn.
Withdrawn?
Withdrawn.
So then, it's a broad belt. It's something that means aloof or distant, and it's a child's game. And Patrick, choose it.
Well, I don't believe there's such a scarcity of women in the West. There are 2 or 3 there, really. Large lumps of blubber. It's Victorian. This withdrawal. She said what?
Said aloof or withdrawn or distant or, you know, like that.
I think, to my incredulous amazement, it's aloof or withdrawn.
Now, that was Suzanne who said that.
You're
Was that true or bluff?
Smug. That's a bluff, isn't it? Let's see it.
Oh. Need to know what the real meaning of highty-tighty is.
It's in your course.
Highty-tighty!
Really is a child's game, and you leap out like that and never caught on, I think. Anyway, streaker. No, it's... Well, who knows? I mustn't say no, because I just announced the word. Streaker is enough for me to say, and then to say, Patrick, define it.
It's not an occasion for vulgar laughter. The streaker is a hand or a kind of facsimile of a human hand, either male or female, but it's made of wood. A streaker is used when we made a glove, kind of rough, kind of glove really, with fingers on it and found it in the back. When I put it over the streaker, after you've dyed it, so it dries in the right shape, it's called a streaker.
Right, now it's Christopher Cazenove's go.
Well, in 1764, there was patented in London a pendulum clock with a streaker remontoire, or compensating mechanism. A streaker is an eccentric wheel, which was, of course, invented by a gentleman called Streaker, and it equalized the varying forces exerted by the swing of the pendulum.
Yes, and now it's Angharad, your turn.
Well, there was a time, and not so very long ago, when every English village had its resident streaker. And indeed, it was not unknown for the vicar's wife to pop out of the vicarage and indulge herself in a little bit of streaking. Therefore, a streaker is someone who streaks, i.e., who lays out a dead body.
Mention a dead body and the audience bursts into hysterical applause. Anyway, it's a glove block for shaping a glove on. It's one who lays out corpses, and it's a sort of compensating mechanism, an eccentric wheel in a clock. Frank, your turn to pick.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. It isn't often I compliment you, but they were fairly well done, all three of them. I don't think you have eccentric wheels to counterbalance penduli in clocks.
The effects of the penduli.
Yes, no, I don't think you do that. You have things that make them go up and down to counterbalance stretching, but I don't think you have... so that's not it. No, right, off. That's that one out. Stretching a glove or stretching a dead body? Well, I think we'd rather that it be the dead body. Because Angharad's...
Well, yes. Well, that was Angharad, you said that. Was it true or bluff now?
She's prettier than Paddy. Much, much prettier.
Got it?
It's a moving
Streaker is an old-fashioned name for one who lays out a corpse. 2-0, we have trespassed, and it's Donny MacLeod, your turn.
Trespassed is the word, and whenever I see or hear this word, I think of the sound of battle, the grunting and groaning and the heave-ho, and even up she rises a little bit, because this word was used to define the apparatus which was used to hoist particularly fat old knights dressed in full armour onto the back of their horses before they galloped off against the enemy. It was a system of pulleys, 3 in all, and people would heave and grunt and lift the knight onto the back of the horse using a trespassed.
So, now, Suzanne.
Trespassed is a species of water beetle, has sort of a greyish hue and turned up nose. And you find it, yes, you find it in brackish waters. Has a strange habit too. It sort of swims on the back, and one believes it tries to avoid to the enemies, which are the birds, to catch him so you can see them better.
Swimming an upturned nose on his back, he's going to get drowned, isn't he?
He won't paddle along with it. Beetle doing a backstroke. It's interesting. Frank, your turn.
The turned up nose.
Yes.
We're in ancient Greece, on the beach. And there your ancient Grecian fishermen, cross-legged with their nets.
Yes.
It's a singing rather a long 3-part harmony song. They divided themselves up into basses, tenors and countertenors, and this song they sang as they mended their ancient Greek nets was called Trespassed.
Well, they say this. They say that it's a hoist for lifting things, and knights in particular. onto their horses. It's a Greek song, and it's a water beetle that swims on its back. So Christopher Cazenove has the choice.
Well, start dismissing Suzanne. This beetle obviously had its upturned nose because of the brackish water, but it not trying to avoid
Told
the
you that was
stench.
a silly one to do. Told you.
Not convincing, we don't think. And a Greek fisherman's song was so involved that it could be one of those double bluffs, but we rather go for the hoisting of the night, really, Donny, I think.
It was Donny MacLeod who said that, wasn't it? Now, is he going to tell us what he has to? True or bluff? Here he comes now.
That's another bluff, isn't it?
Got it!
Well done.
Twice past or thrice past is what he said it was. Hoists things up, and nights in particular. Gibby is the next word, and Christopher, it's your turn.
A gibby was Australian vernacular for the now extinct threepenny piece. The derivation of the word gibby is a little obscure, but it's said that the koala bear on one side of the coin bore a very strong resemblance to a Mr. Gibbons, who was a former Australian finance minister.
Interesting theory.
Yes. Who comes next? Yes, it's Angharad. Your
Rubbish, but interesting.
Well, a gibby is a straight branch of a tree which is just the right length and thickness to make a walking stick out of. And incidentally, those barley sugar walking stick shaped rocks are often called gibby sticks.
Yes, yes. Nice and straightforward. Patrick, your turn.
A gibby is old pugilistic slang for a boxer's attendant, or as they are now known, a boxer's second. The first female gibby and the first female woman's liber. They're getting rarer and rarer. Was she not the wife, Marie, of Jim Belcher, that well-known bare-fisted fighter? And she was Jim's gibby for the whole of his career, and she could take him over 5 rounds after he finishes his night's work.
It's a boxer's second. It's a stick on a tree that can be made easily into a walking stick, and it's a threepenny bit from Australia. Donny, your pick.
Well, Patrick Campbell's pugilistic lady I dismiss out of hand. Sorry, Patrick. But I quite believe that she could have taken Mr. Belcher over 5 rounds. The walking stick has an attractiveness about it, and I'm a bit worried about the word gibby and gibber and gibber used by Aber, but I think I'm going to plump for the Antipodean threepenny piece.
He's plumped, I'm delighted. We haven't had a plump for a long time. What we need is to know whether Christopher Cazenove was telling the truth or was it a bluff. You haven't missed it? No, wasn't that? Here comes the true definition. One of them's got it. They must have, unless they've lost it.
Yes, of course it's did.
Yeah. It's a bit of twig that you cut off, and it can easily be moulded into a walking stick. Drawley is the next word. Suzanne, your turn.
Drawley is a Scottish funeral feast. Unlike the Irish funeral feast of wakes, where they have the bars open all the way through, the Scottish one has a sort of sober collation of cold meats and piper's lament and recital of the old 100th psalm, you call it.
That fits in, yes, it certainly does. Frank, your turn.
In the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, there was an act on Parliament or an ordinance or something which proclaimed that any piece of cloth which was found to be pursy, drawly, bandy, cockley, or rue-y,
spell it,
was it was confiscate. I don't know what the others mean, but drawly means cloth liable to fray.
Right, Donny MacLeod's go.
Well, very straightforward word, this, drawly. It has two connotations. One is physical, and that is that you speak through the nose in a drawling manner. The second is, I suppose, more metaphysical, in that it's used usually in a derogatory frame for members of the upper class who, being rather thick, not all of them, obviously, but some of them being rather thick, to give themselves a chance to think of what they're next going to say, adopt this drawly way of speech.
Well, it's a Scots funeral feast. They say it used to be fraying cloth, and it is a drawling manner of speech, of utterance. Angharad, your go.
Can I confer with my
Yes,
team?
for an
Just
hour.
for a minute.
Let's
Just
go
a
ahead.
minute.
We'll be back very soon.
I need advice.
Blue heaven and you and I, stars kissing the moon.
Better start, Angharad.
Well,
You go on singing.
I'll
if you
start
don't.
from backwards, sort of thing. I don't think it's Donny's, because a drawl means something else. I think that's a bluff. It's sort of different kind of speech. Aren't I right, team?
Yes. I hope so.
Yes. The fraying cloth was very, very good, but I'm not sure about that. I'm going to plum, or if that's the word, for...
Choose rather than plum.
Choose.
Plum.
The Scottish feast.
Well, that's the second plump in one programme. I'm keeping score. That was Susan. True or bluff?
Yeah.
What possibly could drawly mean? Let us hear the true definition.
I'm awfully sorry.
Drawly means drawly. That's what it means. And Lamington, or possibly Lamington, is the next one. And it's Angharad Rees's turn to define.
If you were a young lady about to go for a ride on Rotten Road for the first time, it's quite likely that your groom would have fixed onto your horse a lamington. Now, a lamington is a restrictive bridle that stops the horse from tossing and trying to throw you off and that sort of thing.
OK, yeah, well, they'd have to have something like that sooner or later. Patrick Campbell's go now.
A lamington is a small, shallow dish named after Joseph Lamington, who was a glassmaker. The interesting thing about lamingtons and about Joseph Lamington is that he probably used them for kind of butter dishes, or people that bought them used them butter dishes, even jam dishes, but it's quite possible that Sir Alexander, who invented penicillin? Whom invented penicillin? Whom invented penicillin also used a little dish called a lamington.
Very interesting. Johnny good.
Lamington Spa.
Christopher Cazenove now has a go.
Well, a lamington is a tea-time delicacy, normally eaten with little finger... I can't really do it extended anyway, by the higher echelons, the ladies in the higher echelons of Australian society. It is, in fact, a little square of sponge cake dipped in hot chocolate sauce and liberally coated with desiccated coconut.
Yeah. Sounds fairly Australian, I must say. It's a chocolate-covered sponge cake with coconut and everything else on it. It's a shallow little dish, and it's a special sort of bridle to keep the horse in check if you want a quiet ride. Suzanne, your turn to pick.
Well, I don't think that funny sort of food is my sort of taste, and it can't be right. It doesn't sound like it. The horse thing, I'm not sure. Where on the horse would that be?
The bridle.
The bridle. No, I think there are other parts. I go for is it out of glass, the little dish?
The little dish of which Patrick gave us a very
that's
brief
what I
rundown.
go for.
I'm sure there's more to tell us about that dish, but true or bluff, Patrick?
I have said enough.
So, a lamington really is this now. Own up time. It's there. Yes.
You know a lot, don't you?
The special Australian cake, that's what it is. 3-all, how exciting. Squoil is the next one. Frank, define it if you will.
If you're in Norfolk and you see a chap with a bald patch amidst his hair, they say, see what he's got in his head? He's got a bald patch. But if you go into a vegetable patch which is growing and there's a patch which isn't growing, it's bad, a bit of bad land or something, that'd be a squoil.
Nothing to do with the bloke's head, after all. I mean, just... you were offering us a
sort of literary allusion.
Of course, of course.
You could stand on your head in the bald patch.
Yes.
If you...
Yes,
as a bird scarer.
Have you finished?
Thank you. Yes, fill me in now. Very good. Donny, it's your turn now.
Well, this is one of these words which has a very strongly onomatopoetic flavour, because you can almost hear the sound of this. To squoil is to make a paste using a powder and a liquid. It can be flour and milk, or it can be in pharmacy for making ointment. It's not necessary to use a pestle and mortar. In fact, in cooking, there's a very charming couplet from a 17th century cookbook which says, "To mustard seed put sop of wine, then squoil it sound to ointment fine."
Ha, ha,
ha. Now, Suzanne.
A squoil is a short stick on which one end is lead. And you forest wildfowl are using it as a sort of non-returnable boomerang. And he sees he sees a flying duck and swings his squoil to try to stun the bird in mid-air and bring it down with a crash to the ground.
Well, it's an astonishingly useful weapon for throwing at low-flying ducks, it seems. It also means to mix things up into a paste, and it means a bare patch in a vegetable plot. Patrick, your choice.
Well, in full agreement here. I haven't consulted her, she goes all wrong. You got one right. Well, absurd patch, so you can stand on your head in your bald patch or dig up a patch. Hopeless, miserable confusion there, Frank. All this... what about you? Just a minute. Just a minute. Just pay. You don't call it a squoil, but on the other hand, if you've got a stick or ein stick with some lead on the end of it, where you throw it at birds, a kind of a non-returnable boomerang, that's it.
You're choosing that, are you? That deadly stick. True or bluff, Suzanne?
Looking far too happy.
You're right. That's incredible. You have to be awfully skillful to hit anything with such a stick. But there, such it is. Durgan is our next one, and it's Patrick's go.
In the animal kingdom, kingdom, not kingdom. The kingdom, I said it. Longitudinally speaking...
That's that way.
No. Either way. Longitudinally goes up that way. Anyway, you would be longitudinally, and I too, a little bit different to a Durgan. Because the Durgan is a very small, undersized animal. Like perhaps a Chihuahua, perhaps a Shetland pony, or Ronnie Corbett. That's a Durgan.
Right. Christopher Cazenove has a turn.
In Scottish law, Durgan is the term for any flotsam or jetsam of a dutiable nature, which means that if it's found, it should be immediately surrendered to the Customs and Excise, as no doubt your average Scotsman, on finding a case of whisky on the seashore, would hasten to do.
Yep, right. Angharad, your turn.
Well, a durgan is a Middle Eastern musical instrument, and it has a bulbous end to it, which produces a rather doleful sound. and it is traditionally used by the snake charmers. You know that by playing the instrument, they make cobras come out of laundry baskets, that sort of thing.
You could also throw it at it.
Better out than in, that's what I say. Dutiable flotsam and jetsam that's thrown up on the beach, say. Kind of Middle Eastern musical instrument does that to snakes, and someone or some animal rather on the small side. Frank?
We're all in agreement here in the sense that we all differ. Let's say we have something in common. Now, well, I think we're pretty certain that it's not a Scottish term for flotsam and jetsam, which would really be too dreary, Christopher, if it's right. Might be right, but if so, very, very dreary. We don't like dreary things, so it can't be that. It's either a small... It can't be a small mammal, can it? Yes, it can. I say it's a small mammal.
You say it's small mammal, yes, or thing or man. Patrick, true or bluff?
It's ridiculous.
Without help for the first time, you are correct.
Now, we've got just nice time, and we need it for all, goodness me, on the edge of your seats as I am. Donny MacLeod is now going to define fierce fairly briskly.
Fierce, well, in Athenian times, in ancient Greece, when people didn't go down to the local wine shop to buy their wine, but made wine from the grapes they grew at home, a tax was levied upon them for that privilege, and that was a fierce.
And now, Suzanne.
Fierce was the name called by the medieval chess players, which is called nowadays the Queen.
Ah, the piece on the board that's called the Queen. Right. Frank, your turn.
Fierce, quite simply, is a nest, gathering, collection of caterpillars.
No, it's a little furry nest of caterpillars. It's what they used to call the queen on a chessboard many a long year ago, and is a tax on if you make your own booze at home in certain circumstances. So, Christopher, your choice.
50,000 quid on it.
I thought it was me.
But it was an idea.
Do you have any... You're out on your own.
Out on my own, my goodness. Well, it's...
flip a coin, my dear.
Yes, well, tax on homemade wine, a Greek word. I'll reserve judgment on that one. Caterpillars doesn't really, Frank, sound... It's sweet, it's lovely, it's cuddly, but it's not really, I don't think. And again, the queen on the chest... I don't know, I'm going for...
Another conference.
Another little conference.
Barely time for it, lads, barely time.
Has anyone got a three-sided coin?
Contrary to what I said just now, I shall try the chess.
The chess you choose, that was Suzanne to a bluff. Have they won? They have! A fierce is what they used to call, in those circumstances which I've just for the moment forgotten, they used to call the queen on the chessboard. So, the score standing at 5-4, wasn't it an exciting finish? Well, I've quite forgotten who's... Ah, yes. Patrick Campbell, oh, so excited. Patrick Campbell's team has won! So we shall have... another gathering, another batch of seconds from the Oxford English Dictionary next week. Till then, goodbye from Donny MacLeod, Christopher Cazenove, Suzanne Roquette, Angharad Rees, Frank Muir, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye.